certified mail or anything like that. Essentially what we do is we rely on the operator to provide evidence in the document in the application that they have sent the letters. And so we actually, I believe we get copies. We actually get copies of the letters that they have sent out.
But you don't have any copies, any certification?
No. And we thought we had discussed that. The whole problem with certified mail is obviously people don't have to pick up their certified mail. So what happens if somebody doesn't? Does that mean the application is frozen? You get in this whole notice issue, and so we've talked to John about notice, and really what we can go with is if we believe that notice was substantially done, then we can accept the application. And currently we operate off of if it was, the operator tells us it was put in the U.S. mail, we're not going out there door to door to make sure that it was put in the U.S. mail.
Thank you.
This really has not been an issue that any of our operators have discussed with us, but it has been a really controversial issue in some of the cities to the north of us. Some companies have operate where rather than truck the wastewater off of the pad sites, they desire to put in a pipeline leading from the pad site to some kind of centralized receiving spot, so you can tie 3 or 4 or more pad sites together, and at that centralized location, either trucks come in and take the wastewater off, or it can be treated and discharged to the sanitary sewer. Concept-wise, we're not opposed to that. We just believe that that would really be a industrialized facility, and so they need to come to City Council to get approval for that. It would be a zoning case and come through that process. So whether it's wastewater treatment system or whether it's just a tank farm where trucks come and go, we believe that that is a real heavy industrial use that needs to have City Council approval wherever it's located. And so we really, like I said, we haven't had anybody bring it up, so we're just kind of being proactive because we do know that in Flower Mound, South Lake, and some cities like that where it has been discussed, it really has been a really controversial issue with the citizens. Seismic testing. Seismic testing within the city is handled by, or the actual permitting or processing the use of city streets is processed by our engineering division. And Romeen Kavari is here. If you have questions on how this is proposed to be handled. But right now, really what we do is companies have to have a right-of-way agreement with our engineering division. The proposed changes are that there actually be formalized application and permitting procedures with a processing fee. Also, there will be mandated public notification requirements, limitations on the day and times of when the seismic testing could be conducted, requirements for a customer service hotline, and also mandates that the equipment used has to be low impact equipment. And one of the, if those of you that have had it done in your area know that one of the controversies is, the wires running down people's tree lawns, I guess. And so Ramin and his staff have worked very hard to come up with some provisions that we believe address the concerns and complaints that they have received. And we've tried to address as many issues as possible, at the same time have a process that's functional and works. So I guess I would, if you have any questions on seismic testing, I think Ramin would be the person to.
Councilman Hepworth, that question or not? On the mandate for the low-impact equipment, I went out and visited with Newark Energy, and they were talking about seismic, and I suppose, I guess we're getting technological advancements where we have lower impact. Is that the industry norm, or are we just talking about having less wires and intrusive equipment floating around, or do we actually have technological?
I'll let Ramin answer that because he's been working with those folks.
Okay, I did want to compliment you also, Jim. This is much easier than you thought it was going to be. Isn't that so far so good?
We'll see. We'll see when we're done.
Councilman Hepworth, to answer your question, actually these type of vibrators that are being used were specially designed for urban areas. They do have other type of equipment that actually generate more vibration, but these are specifically for the urban environment. So yes, to answer your question, it does take advantage of available technology to reduce any kind of impact and to allow them to get the information that they need to be able to do that.
Thanks, sir.
Our Mayor Pro Tem, Ms. Jackson, Mr. Romaine. Mr. Kennedy, thank you, Romaine. Yeah. There's a question, Mayor Pro Tem.
Okay.
There you go.
On the daytime limitation, on the proposed changes, now does that mean daytime every day of the week on their service, or is that, and what kind of hours do the people in that area expect? It happens on a Sunday morning, and that's the whole time they get their rest and change on the line.
I'm going to let you know that Ramin was concerned about this also, and he put in that the limitations are 8 in the morning to 5 in the afternoon, not on weekends and not on city holidays.
Councilman Fredo.
And Jim, on the public notification, have we spelled out how we're going to accomplish that in detail there?
Councilman Rico, we are requesting that they inform all the public in terms of the work that is being done in their area and to basically spell out what they'll be doing to inform them when they're going to be doing the work actually out there. So they will be sending and mailing out notifications to them, letting them know about this work that's going to be done.
Preceding the work.
Yes, sir.
So there will be a formal notification to the area impacted that the seismic testing is going to take place and
Yes,
is proceeding.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Move on.
I'm gonna have to be honest, I haven't seen seismic testing being done, I've just seen pictures of it.
Yes, sir.
How big an area is done at one time?
Actually, I mean, the last area that was done were for the whole Grand Peninsula area that included the lake. And so it could basically cover a very large area. And the section that's actually now being proposed extends from I-30 north all the way close to the Rock Island, Shady Grove area. It extends from the, actually extends into Arlington further all the way close to Babylon Road. So it does cover a large area, and the way it works for them is sometimes, like further down south, it did require them also getting permits from other agencies like the Corps of Engineers. So they try to do a large area to be able to make it efficient for their process. But they will be working in smaller areas, and they do have their special equipment that put out there to be able to get the information that they need. So it does cover a large area, and usually they try to be efficient, get it done within about a couple of months' time. And it is also, I like to mention, it is weather dependent too. So it is something that if there's lightning out there or rain, they're not able to get the information they need, so they do have to shut down, demobilize to get that information. So that does play a
use that type of well. Okay, I was just wondering about the cost effectiveness of land.
That is something that we're required to at least let the folks know. Because ahead of that, they do go, it is a very labor-intensive process to put out the geophones, so it takes quite a while to put those out, and then for them to, once they've done that. So we're requesting that we don't want folks to show up and find out something in the yard and wonder what it is. So we want to prepare them, let them know ahead of time that they're planning on doing that, so when they do see the equipment, they know what it's about.
As the mayor mentioned when we first got started, there's a couple of really controversial issues currently going on with gas drilling. Obviously, one is air emissions, which we're going to talk about later. The other one is the fracturing process. There's a lot of discussion and controversy nationwide on the potential impact of fracturing on the environment. And you know, I mentioned EPA is doing the study. One of the issues is whether these operations have a negative impact on wells, freshwater drinking wells. As a city that still utilizes well water, obviously this is of special interest to us. I think you know, going west from here, I think Hurst is the only other city that has well water. Most other folks are on surface water. So obviously, I know our public works director is very keen on protecting the wells that we have, and so the same thing applies. We have a surprisingly high number of private wells in town, and unfortunately, we know that because we've had instances of groundwater contamination where we have gone door to door to find private wells, and we have a lot of them. And so the existing ordinance did have some provisions for protecting private wells, and we have built upon those. One of the things we've done is increase the setback from wells that are not part of the lease. Also, we have increase the distance where the well has to be tested. And the concept is that you test the well before any drilling activity takes place. And then that way, if the owner of the well has an issue and you test it after the fact, you can compare the data. It's awful hard to go back after the fact and take a sample and try to decide if anything's ever happened to the well. So the pre and post testing is real critical to that. And we added some specific testing methods and parameters of the types of chemicals that need to be tested for. And I think this is important. You know, we've already had at least one instance where we have a citizen who believes his well was negatively impacted, and he believes his health has been impacted, and so it turns into quite a science project in some cases to try to figure out exactly what occurred. And so these are not new requirements, we just kind of built upon what we already had. Related to that, we looked at those instances west of us where people believed their wells were impacted. Obviously, there's a lot of controversy related to whether the drilling actually impacted the wells, but the reality is people have well water that they can't drink. And so what we tried to build into the ordinance is an expedited method of let's get the investigation done, let's figure out a way to provide